All right, everyone. We are live with the Military Writers Academy. I'm Dan Pace, I'm a retired Green Beret and a current author who usually links up here on Mondays with Randy to offer a little bit of insight from a prior military guy, a current author, and a current editor. In Randy's case's perspectives on writing. We like to try and get out there and exchange some best practices. We talk about the projects and hurdles we're kind of working on at the moment, and then solicit feedback from the group to see if anybody's got any questions. Last week we talked to a guy named Dan Marrero who is working on a new manuscript for an upcoming memoir that he's putting together on time in Afghanistan, and I think we actually had a pretty good conversation on chewing through just some of the hurdles he's having, which I don't think are uncommon in that community, with just getting thoughts on paper. How do you transition from getting thoughts kind of in bulk on paper to really formulating those into first an outline and then a book that somebody else could read, they could pick up and understand? And that's obviously a pretty challenging thing to do. Probably not going to do a full hour today, because honestly, if I just sat here and talked to myself for an hour, it would be kind of a little bit strange. I don't know. Some people podcast solo. I don't know. I do better with the group for sure. But we're going to at least hang around for a little bit and see if chat pops up, see if anybody is interested in soliciting or providing any input. As far as current projects on my end, actually putting the finishing touches on the next memoir, which is going to be a prequel to It Was What It Was, the book on Iraq that I wrote about 1.5 years ago. This one's going to be on enlisted time in Afghanistan as private. And I've got it sent out to one editor right now. And then I'll be sending it over to Randy and his team here in a few weeks to put the second edit on it. And then after that, it should be off to the races. If you haven't written yet, I'll caution you that the writing is really only a small percentage of the whole process. By the time you finish your manuscript, you feel like you're done. But the reality is you just started with a lot of the challenges that you're going to face. Other projects actually have a children's book coming out here pretty soon. So got that written and illustrated. It's kind of a different direction than I usually go, but my kids and I drive past this one picture every day. It's this huge mural of a whale and a kraken on the side of a building down near the beach where we go, and we see it every time we go to the beach. And every time there's this whale and the kraken fighting on the building, and the kids are always trying to figure out, well, are they friends? Are they enemies? Which one? And so there's just discussions and arguments have broken out many times over the years on just what's the nature of the whale and the kraken's relationship. And I just was inspired from that to write a book on it. So I wrote down the story of the whale and the kraken. It kind of started as just a paragraph, and then it grew into about 10,000 words. Ended up being about a 150-page chapter book. And the illustrations were kind of similar. Sat down with a sketchbook and a fountain pen and just started doodling what I thought, little Jimmy Whale, who's the protagonist of this book, would look like. And then the rest of the characters kind of grew from there. And it ended up being a pretty fun project. Ended up putting the whole thing together in probably 4 weeks. And now just like with the other book, we're in the post-writing process. So we're editing, we're getting the cover art put together, getting the launch campaign started, right? So just the nature of selling books on Amazon is that you need a good, successful launch. And we're going to try it with Kickstarter this time. Never done a Kickstarter before, never hosted one, never run one, but Randy has. And so we're going to try and see if we can basically cover the production costs of the book with a Kickstarter and simultaneously generate a little bit of steam, a little bit of momentum to get this whole thing running. And so that should be coming out later this week, and we'll obviously share the links. Past that, the only other writing project I have right now is that I have started the foreword for the third book in what's called the GWAT trilogy. So this trilogy of memoirs that's supposed to take the Army basically from 2001 to 21. And I wrote the foreword for that. I recommend folks start with a foreword. I think one of the challenges Randy says a lot of his customers have is that they don't really know why they write the book. So they start telling the story and they start recounting details of their careers and their lives, but they don't give a lot of thought to really what they're putting it together for. And to me, one of the ways I circumvent that problem is by starting with the foreword or the afterword. I think they're functionally pretty similar, but if you start with one of those two sections, and just think like, what is it that's stuck in your brain that you want to communicate? What's the reason you're writing this book? I think if you just start trying to jot that down, you'll find that actually the foreword comes together fairly quickly. So in my case, the forward for this one was really about the last 10 years of the war. So I think, like a lot of other veterans, I'm kind of a little bit irritated with the way the war ended, right? I mean, my whole adult life was spent fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq. I mean, it's a little bit hyperbole, but it deployed a lot to those countries in the 23 years I was in the military. And so the end, this kind of dribbly, what the hell, ending in 2021 that fell apart so very quickly, it sticks in my brain, right? It's a thing that I have trouble kind of letting go completely. And so I just started writing that in the afterword, or the forward rather, because this new book is really going to be about the end of the GY. And by the end, I mean the last 10 years. And so in those 10 years, the war really transformed into this kind of new and exciting thing, this thing that maybe initially we thought we could win, right? Initially we thought, okay, we're going to take down Osama bin Laden, and then, okay, we're going to take down Saddam Hussein, and then transition to kind of, we're going to rebuild Iraq. And then at some point after that, it really transitioned to, I don't know what, right? But as I wrote the forward, I started to realize that what I really think it transitioned to was just inertia. I think you could find apologists and cynics that would probably tell you all the reasons why the U.S. continued to fight, this kind of loyalty to this nation we had built, this larval nation of Afghanistan, or the kind of values approach where we're really getting over there to end that sort of medieval value system that was so oppressive to women and so just at odds with kind of Western culture. But on the other hand, you'd find cynics who said, no, it was all about money from day one, and really we're just looking to sell missiles and kind of fuel the military industrial complex. And on the military side, leaders just getting over there because they just want to get their gun on. I don't think either of those is quite accurate. There's kernels of truth to everything. I think that a lot of the times when I deployed, you do kind of try and fire yourself up, and you do think about those values. You think about the loyalty of the people you're working with over there. And cynically, there's no question that people made a lot of money off the war in Afghanistan. So it's impossible to say that wasn't a factor at all. But I think the real reason was just inertia. And so writing the forward of this and trying to say, like, well, it's kind of a big assertion that we just did it because, I don't know, we had already been doing it for a while and we just want to keep doing it. And so you have to flesh that out. But I think, obviously, I just kind of read you the forward of the book. That's kind of what I'm writing on. But when you put your own forward together as a new author, and when you really drive out the purpose of your book, I think you might find that putting those thoughts on paper and really starting to chew through that why, to really scratch the itch that's bothering you, that's making you want to write this book in the first place, you might find that it gets pretty well refined as you work through it. And then you have a chance to kind of, circle around on it and refine the parts that are a little unclear. I think a lot of times our thinking comes clearer when we write it down and we refine it, particularly through the editing process. And so if you are a new military writer out there and you are, looking at starting to put these ideas on paper, I encourage you to start that direction. I encourage you to start that way. Just start thinking about the why. Who are you writing to? Who are you writing to, and what are you writing it for? And if you start writing those two things down, I think you might find that when you finish that, when you polish it up, and you'll come back to it, but when you polish up at least your draft of that forward, it could provide a lot of context. So as you start telling the story, you can actually link all the pieces together. It'll give you the kind of structure you need, so that when you just start hemorrhaging data, like, yeah, I was in here on this day and I did this and I did that on this day, and okay, the descriptions are all good, but how do you stitch all that into something that makes sense? How do you stitch all that into a story that somebody could understand? I think that the structure you put into your forward can help you achieve that. And so that's my 10-minute soliloquy on forwards, current projects, and the importance of the forward and kind of driving the writing process for you. That's kind of where I'm sitting as a writer right now. That's the forward that I just put together on the next book that I'm writing, and that's I imagine going to be easily a year in the making, so don't expect to see it soon. And that's kind of what's going on. And I don't see a lot of people popping into the chat. Obviously, we're still a pretty new podcast, and we don't have a lot of following yet. But if you are a former military guy or gal who's looking to write, or you are a military interested author who's looking to just talk to a couple of guys who have a lot of military service between them about the quality of work, about, hey, am I capturing this correctly? Am I describing it correctly? Is what I say make any sense to a person who actually knows anything about the military? Then ping us, shoot us a message here. You can visit us at either the Story Ninjas website, or you can go to my website at danielvpace.com and ask us the questions you got. And I think we can probably help you out. At least you move the right direction. So with that, I think I'm going to wrap up for the day. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. And if you've got anything, please reach out and contact us. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, and good luck putting that pen on paper this week.